Hi, I'm Javier. I work at Natural Aesthetics Dental Laboratory here in Tampa, Florida. Today I'm going to go through the procedures of mounting a model on the Poly Patient Simulator. The advantage of the Poly Simulator is the fact that the lower member moves like a natural lower jaw, and through 3D x-rays we can mount the models accurately and do anything from a 2-unit bridge to full mouth rehab. Having the articulator function like the patient is a huge benefit in allowing us to deliver splints, crowns, bridges, implant cases, and dentures that require an absolute minimum of adjustment in the mouth. Before we get started, you'll need the following items handy. The WEHMER FirstFit prescription for your patient. The WEHMER FirstFit matrix tray that was used to take the x-rays for the prescription. Upper and lower casts of the patient's mouth. A bite registration of the patient taken in CO. 2 poly base plates. The poly Allen wrench. The poly set device with adjustable pins. And the poly set indicator with stand. Prior to setting up each WEHMER case, the poly needs to be zeroed in or recalibrated to the standard. This is achieved simply by installing the black calibration standard loosely between the upper and lower base plate mounting screws. Loosen all 3 thumb screws on the side of the vertical dimension adjustment pins. Raise the pins off the mandibular plate and lock them so they don't interfere with the securing calibration standard. I also disengage the condylar elements in the back to totally eliminate any interferences. The standard is then tightened in place. At this point, I turn the poly so that you're facing the posterior aspect. Loosen the condyle heads with the locking screw with your Allen wrench and tip them out each buckwheat. Leave them loose. The condylar distance from the midline is set here. The condylar angle is set here. Once the adjustments are made, hold down with pressure and tighten the locking screw. The same is done on the other side for the other measurements. Yep. At this point, I unscrew the locking knob that secures the member onto the frame. Turn it upside down. Lock the other locking knob, and this gives you a good angle and view of the condylar elements and the fossa blocks. Now I loosen the button head screws on the fossa blocks and I allow them to move freely so we can make our adjustments. At this point, I'm just going to line up the condylar head with the fossa block. Allow it to snap into place, bring it within 1 millimeter. I'll tighten the fossa, or the condylar element, and just tease both pieces into place until they're all tight. The same thing's done on the other side to complete the settings. At this point, all the condylar elements have been set, and we can return the poly to its original position. At this point, the 3 pins are dropped and locked onto their targets on the lower member. They're tightened. The calibration standard can be removed. We're ready to mount our casts. This is the poly set device used to set the maxillary arch in space, using the X, Y, and Z axis as reference from our prescription. The first adjustment I make is the anterior-posterior shift on the poly set. The knob is on the back and loosened. This allows for the adjustment of the anterior marker position on the tray relative to the location of the condyles as measured on the x-rays. Numbers are given in plus or minus on the prescription and correspond to plus and minus marks on the poly set. Simply loosen the knob on the back side of the poly set and slide the block forward or backwards to the number appearing on the prescription. Lock the position in place. The next adjustment I make is the rear pin rotation. This setting adjusts for the right or left shift of the tray relative to the center line of the poly and is determined by a perpendicular line drawn from the interior marker to the axis between the centers of the condyles. Refer to the scale directly behind the posterior pins, loosen the knob, and move the slide to the number that is on the prescription. Place the plunger of the indicator on top of the interior pin. Rotate the screw counterclockwise until the number on the indicator matches the number on the prescription. Repeat this step for the two posterior screws. Sometimes you'll have to substitute longer or shorter screws to get on the number on the prescription. These different lengths are available from the manufacturer. Now the poly and the poly set are ready for mounting models. The tray mounting plane is now placed on the poly set device. The three larger holes on the bottom line up with the pins on the poly set device. The three smaller holes on the top align with the marker balls in the tray. At this stage, I take the model and I put it in the plastic poly tray. I use hot glue to secure the model to the tray. You can also use hot glue to secure the mounting tray to the plate. At this point, I screw the poly set base onto the lower member of the articulator. And I place the model and the tray on top of it. Now we're ready for mounting.
Yep.
Now we're going to screw the mounting plate onto the top part of the articulator. Now with the mounting plaster, I open the articulator a little bit, making sure to get plaster inside the retentive holes of the mounting plate. Continuing to put plaster in between the model and the plate. Cleaning up the plaster around the plate and the model. Making sure that this lower member is up so we do have an accurate setting. Now that the plaster's set up, I've removed the poly set, cleaned up the model. With the bite registration and the lower model, we're ready to put our models together and mount the lower. Now I'm going to put in the lower mounting plate. I'm going to invert the poly. Using my bite registration and the lower model, we're ready to mount the lower member, and we're done.